Okay, welcome everybody to the World Forest Report here with Dean Val, Dean Kevin, and Tim. Well, then I'll just go on here with an article about the Siberian Fires, which is biggest fires ever, 40 million acres. Unprecedented fires have been scorching huge swaths of eastern Russia in recent weeks, with Siberia's Yakutia region hit hardest. While Russia has been experiencing an increasing severity of wildfires due to blistering summer temperatures and a historic drought, this article is from mainstream media. This year, all records are being broken. More than 300 fires are still active across what is supposed to be one of the coldest parts of the world. In recent days, experts have found that Siberia forest blazes are bigger than all the other wildfires burning in the world combined. As of August 16th, the area covered by fires since the beginning of the year amounted to 17.8 million hectares, an area nearly twice the size of Portugal, and continues to grow. This massive size is a first in the recorded history of satellite observation. Catastrophic fires are still burning. Yakutia is the region of Irkutsk in the southern Urals, along with other regions of the country. 2021 could surpass Russia's worst fire year, which was 2012. Alexei Yurishenko, forestry expert with Greenpeace Russia, predicts, according to scientists, northern Siberia, like the Canadian Arctic, is warming 3 times faster than the rest of the world. Smoke from these massive wildfires in Russia's Siberia region reached the geographic North Pole for what could be the first time in recorded history, according to NASA. The fires were so extreme that plumes of smoke also have stretched to Mongolia, Canada, Nunavut, and Greenland. More evidence that there are no borders in a climate crisis. Entire cities have been trapped in smoke. Roads and airports in Russia had to be closed and thousands of people evacuated. In the middle of July 2021, residents of Irkutsk, the capital of Sakha, were breathing in smoke from over 300 separate wildfires, as reported by the Siberian Times. According to Harvard University researchers who studied more than 90 countries in the U.S. West that were hit hard by wildfires in 2020, wildfire smoke and COVID-19 is a very dangerous combination. More and more evidence is suggesting that air pollution from cars, fossil fuels, or fires damages the body's ability to resist respiratory viruses, potentially making people more vulnerable to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Thousands of firefighters, agricultural workers, soldiers, and other emergency workers have been contributing to the firefighting efforts. In several cities, officials are desperate for more volunteers and more financial resources to fight the fires. Greenpeace Russia is joining forces with volunteer firefighters, local authorities, and residents to fight back. In recent days, a team of Greenpeace staff and volunteers joined firefighters from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Natural Reserve Rangers in the region of Lake Ladoga to help local volunteers in the Aerial Firefighting State Service tackle forest fires in the Ladoga National Park. For years, officials and opinion leaders have been saying that fires are normal, that the taiga is always burning and there is no need to make an issue out of this. People are used to it, said Alexei Yurishenko, a forestry expert with Greenpeace's Russia. Yet, according to Greenpeace Russia, this unprecedented disaster is a new reality for the country. They are calling for strong measures to be urgently taken to prevent the fires or at least reduce their scale, and have sent a list of measures to the Russian government. Sustainable forestry and forest fire protection is part of Russia's Green Deal a plan for systemic change, developed by Greenpeace, Russia, and partners for effective environmental and climate safeguards in the country. The proposal is gaining support among public and policymakers. At the latest Ipcc climate report details, a hotter future is already locked in. The decisive climate action by governments to rapidly cut climate-wrecking emissions from polluting industries and to protect and restore nature will determine how hot it gets. It's time to stop economic cutbacks on forest protection. Listen to local communities living with our forests and support national forestry to protect humanity and our climate. Okay, here we have a propaganda piece, basically. Again, there's another article that said basically that these fires are caused by campfires and sparks from cars passing by, lightning, which is a yes, but not in the scope and magnitude that these fires are blazing. And it's just a big hoax, the whole thing, I would say, because of course, we have to look to the chemtrails as number one. The geoengineering of the weather is number one source of the cause here, not industry or careless campers, that sort of thing, or dry conditions on the ground. It just doesn't make sense. And I see sometimes videos of like firefighters being interviewed and saying how well he's countering conspiracy theorists, giving points, countering what the conspiracy theorists, claimed about DEWs, etc., and counterclaimed all these accusations, and it sounds very good. And then I saw one about this girl laying in a hospital bed, and she had not supposedly got the vaccine, and here she is on a respirator, a ventilator, and she's barely making the statement, I was sorry, I should have taken the vaccine, and she's laying there dying. I should have taken the vaccine. Very heartwarming, very effective if you haven't decided yet to take it or not. But these kinds of props or, staged kind of plays for people as a marketing measure to get the vaccine or to think the fires are being started another way. They're doing all kinds of things like this. So just beware, pay attention, do your research, listen to this program. Okay, that's it for me. I'll give it over to Tim or Kevin. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have some reports here, some fire reports as well, and then there's a bit of other information that I sourced from Max Egan. I actually got some information regarding Siberia as well, in Russia and such, because that seems to be a big thing at the moment, the fires sweeping through Russia, so some of those details are amongst this as well. The following information was sourced from Reuters. Around 2,000 people have left their homes after wildfires broke out in the southern Spanish region of Andalusia. One emergency worker has been killed in the blaze, which began on Wednesday on high ground above the popular resort town of Estepona on the Costa del Sol. The Spanish government has deployed a military unit to help firefighters in the mountainous region. 6 more towns and villages were evacuated on Sunday, and huge plumes of smoke could be seen from miles away. Residents of 5 other communities were told to leave their homes on Friday. The blaze has burned 7,400 hectares, according to Spanish media. One evacuee, Adriana Iacob, told Reuters news agency, "This is inhuman. Nothing like this has ever been seen." The flames of the fire, as they ran through the mountains, was amazing. Another local resident, Pepper Rubio, said, "Since the fire started, we haven't slept for days. It's awful." Europe has seen a number of wildfires this summer. The world has already warmed by about 1.2 degrees Celsius since the industrial era began. Stunning satellite images depicting the recent gigantic infernos that devastated one of the coldest areas on the planet have been released to mark Earth Observation Week, 6th to the 10th of September. Last month, fires burning across Siberia, known for its cold and harsh winters, were bigger than all the fires burning across the globe combined. An extreme heat wave, coupled with an historic drought, resulted in 10 times more fires in the Yakutia area than usual. Record levels of carbon dioxide were released as smoke from the raging forest fires travelled 3,000 kilometres, 1,800 miles, reaching the North Pole for the first time in recorded history. Experts at the National Centre for Earth Observation, based at Space Park Leicester, have released the images to demonstrate how data from Earth observation instruments can be used to monitor changes in land use and urbanisation over time, which can feed in to improving planning and potential prevention management of large-scale forest fires worldwide. NCEO scientist Dr. David Moore has used the University of Leicester Infrared Atmospheric Sounding Interferometer IASI Retrieval Scheme ULIRS, which is funded and developed through NCEO, to plot the extent of pollution in August 2021 compared to an average August in 2018. He said, "Fires in Siberia happen every year, but this year in particular has stood out in terms of both the number and intensity of fires." Satellite data sets have shown huge amounts of smoke, aerosol, and polluting trace gases from these fires being transported to the Arctic. Over 800 megatons of carbon dioxide has been produced from the fires, which has doubled the record set in 2020. With the changing climate, it is not clear if the number of individual fires will increase or decrease worldwide. But what we are seeing in recent years across many parts of the world is that the intensity of the fires and consequent area burnt by fire is increasing. The European Space Agency Multi-Spectral Imager (MSI) on Sentinel-2 is a great tool for post-fire monitoring. The spatial resolution of MSI data makes it possible to visualize areas of fire activity, contributing to disaster mapping and helping humanitarian relief efforts. Fires can be tracked over several different days, and techniques exist to use the different wavelengths of the MSI data to classify the burn severity of the fires. According to Russia's forestry agency, this year's fires have ravaged more than 14 million hectares, making it the second worst fire season since the turn of the century. Improvements in space-borne images have led to major improvements in spatial resolution, allowing experts to observe changes in the Earth's surface more quickly and accurately. David added, "There has been a long history of space-borne images, one example being the pioneering Landsat program, which started in 1972 and has been providing repetitive multispectral data of the Earth's surface since then. Over the last decade or so, the most significant changes I've witnessed in space-borne imager technology has been the improvement in spatial resolution from 60 magnification at the start of the Landsat program to 15 magnification in the most recent Landsat 8 imager. After the launch of a second Sentinel-2 in 2017, the repeat coverage reduced to 5 days, which helps to improve the chances of a cloud-free overpass if studying processes at the Earth's surface. A third Sentinel-2 satellite is due to launch in 2023, which will reduce the revisit time further. The NCEO, whose headquarters are newly located at the Space Park Leicester, processes and analyses vast quantities of data generated by satellites, as well as by aircraft and ground-based assets, to monitor and understand global and regional fire impacts. Professor John Remedios of the Earth Observation Science Group at the University of Leicester and Director of the National Centre for Earth Observation added, "In our research and products, our experts across the UK are producing leading, trustable data sets and really driving towards the next generation of fire-relevant satellite missions. Convening the worldwide community and collaboration is an absolute imperative to meet the challenges of a changing world." Labria, Brazil, September the 3rd. Thick smoke billowed above Brazil's Amazon jungle as a fire tore through a butchered rainforest, and discarded trees littered the scorched earth like dead matchsticks
burnt and black. A Reuters witness saw vast burned and clear-cut areas on Wednesday and Thursday as the arc of devastation advanced deeper into the jungle by the frontier town of Labria, the municipality with the most fires this year. Fires ramped up in the Brazilian rainforest in August, according to government data released this week, with fires for the month well above the historic average for the third consecutive year under right-wing President Jair Bolsonaro. Such levels were last seen a decade ago, before Bolsonaro took office. The right-wing president has been widely criticized for driving development in the Amazon while working to weaken environmental protections. The former army captain has sought to roll back indigenous land rights, which protect huge swathes of rainforest, and defanged environmental agencies, handing enforcement responsibilities to the military, who have failed to prevent the destruction. Newly cleared areas near Labria in southern Amazonas state were being turned into cow pastures. Informal logging roads branch off the Trans-Amazonian Highway, which ends in Labria. Nearby, there are signs that the destruction is also nearing the protected Mapinguari National Park and Kaititu Indigenous Reserve. Satellites registered 28,060 fires in the Brazilian Amazon in August, a decline of 4% compared to the same month in 2020, when fires likely hit the highest point in a decade, according to Brazil's National Space Research Agency, INPE. The Amazon is the world's largest rainforest. The elevated level of blazes comes in spite of Bolsonaro's broad ban on outdoor fires and a military deployment in response to the destruction for the third straight year. Reuters saw no evidence of government firefighters or environmental enforcement efforts in Labria. Brazil's Environment Ministry did not immediately respond to a request for comment. This article was reported by Bruno Kelly in Labria and Jake Spring in Brasilia, editing by Stephen Eisenhammer and David Gregorio.
Yeah, people, most of the public, just think it can't be on purpose, any of this, the COVID or fires or, it's too big of a thing. And it's called confirmation bias, where, you have an attitude or an idea, and anything opposing that, well, you rationalize it just to cover yourself, and you look for evidence that of your idea of things. So I just see a lot of people like that where it just can't be, people it can't be depopulation, it can't be, the government couldn't do this to us or to themselves. But as it gets more ridiculous, I mean, their rationale, their excuses get more ridiculous, their denials, they're buying off of scientists, staging things. It just gets to more and more people are waking up. That let's see if it's in time for what before it gets too bad, which it already is in a way. But you know, they've had technology already for rainmaking, at least since Vietnam War and Operation Popeye. They can make it rain if they wanted to and put out these fires. It's not beyond them, since they've done it and have that capability. So things are hidden from the public. They're just, if you don't hear about it, it doesn't exist for most people. And the cover-up is huge. Tim, do you have any comments?
It's kind of like Russia being the biggest country or organ of the planet, and hearing that now it's burning up a lot of the vast area besides the rainforest. It seems like it's been being attacked pretty hard by the logging industry, with all the wood down there and the access that they've got so far. Luckily, it sounds like there's not roads out into a lot of that big rainforest yet anyway. So, but they keep, between fire and logging, who knows if it's going to turn into a wasteland. I mean, I guess the certain plants would start over again there if they have the water by the Amazon tributaries or whatever, but it sure looks like a lot of fire going on again, or constantly actually. When it's summer here, it's winter there, and when it's winter here, it's summer there. So it's in Brazil, that's another big area of to hear if hit a lot of that country burning. Besides, it's not just the forest itself as trees and the vegetation, it's all the birds and it's all the little animals, creatures, insects. It's just a depopulation of life. It's kind of like cremation. It's the physical stuff that was there is gone after the fire stuff.
Billions of insects, birds, animals in Australia have been burned, and who knows how many in Siberia. Yeah, it's devastating organic life. It's just, heartbreaking to see those little animals.
All that
up,
stuff
homeless.
goes into the air. All the burnt little creatures and everything else that's there, all over this layer around the earth. So everybody's breathing who knows what, besides all the stuff from the engines of the earth and everything that's going on about the air destruction.
There's even a virus, EMF virus, that like people got in Paradise, California. I think it's called norovirus, where flu-like symptoms, people get rashes, and it's from the EMFs. Basically EMF exposure, and plus accentuated by the smoke. So it's just total destruction.
They sure do a good job of this accelerated depopulation. It's if they could channel their efforts into creating a better world instead of destroying it. That's so strange to even think it that way. How much better it could be, or get it back to being natural.
Well, Kevin's seen it on the real side. A lot of them are turning. They don't like what they see either. The controllers, the reptilians. So we'll see if enough of them turn or not.
Another contributory factor to water shortages, at least surface water at any rate, are the extensive fracking wells in place in various countries. As an example, listening to a Max Egan video, he would reveal how there are 43,000 frack wells in Australia. Each one uses between 1.5 to 16 million gallons of water. Fracking is the process of drilling down into the earth before a high-pressure water mixture is directed at the rock to release the gas inside. Water, sand, and chemicals are injected into the rock at high pressure, which allows the gas to flow out to the head of the well. The process can be carried out vertically, or more commonly, by drilling horizontally to the rock layer, which can create new pathways to release gas, or used to extend existing channels. The term fracking refers to how the rock is fractured apart by the high pressure mixture. The extensive use of fracking in the US has prompted environmental concerns. Fracking uses huge amounts of water, which must be transported to the site at significant environmental cost. As well as earth tremor concerns, environmentalists say potentially carcinogenic chemicals may escape during drilling and contaminate groundwater around the fracking site. The industry suggests pollution incidents are the results of a bad practice rather than an inherently risky technique. Campaigners say fracking is distracting energy firms and governments from investing in renewable sources of energy and encouraging continued reliance on fossil fuels. Shale gas is not the solution to the UK's energy challenges, said Friends of the Earth energy campaigner Tony Bosworth. We need a 21st century energy revolution based on efficiency and renewables, not more fossil fuels. Max Egan would go on to speak of the extensive floodplain water harvesting that's going on in Australia, a lot of it being used for cotton farming. Max goes on to say, growing cotton in Australia is ridiculous when you consider how scarce water is in Australia anyway, as cotton requires an enormous amount of water to grow. Private dams are operating in Australia also, hoarding the water and transporting it to other countries. And what's being sprayed in the skies, among other things, is essentially sparkler dust, flammable material that will be a contributory factor to fires. Here is a breakdown of what a sparkler contains, which are the same particulates being sprayed in the skies. A sparkler is a type of handheld firework that burns slowly while emitting coloured flames, sparks, and other effects. Sparklers are generally formed around a thin, non-combustible metallic wire, about 8 to 12 inches or 20 to 30 centimeters long, that has been dipped in a thick batter of slow burning pyrotechnic composition and allowed to dry. The combustible coating contains these components, one or more of each category, and of which, as I said, are the same particulates being sprayed in the skies. Metallic fuel, mandatory to make sparks. The size of particles influences the appearance of the sparks, and the metallic fuel includes aluminium or magnesium or magnesium, producing white sparks, iron, producing orange, branching sparks, titanium, producing rich white sparks, ferro-titanium for yellow gold sparkles, additional fuel optional, modifying the burning speed, which includes sulfur and charcoal, oxidizer mandatory, which includes potassium nitrate and barium nitrate, strontium nitrate, ammonium perchlorate, and potassium perchlorate, which is a more powerful but potentially explosive. Optional pyrotechnic colorants for colored flames includes chlorides and nitrates of metals, for example, barium, strontium, or copper. Combustible binder holding the composition together, which includes dextrin and nitrocellulose. The colored spot on the top of each rod indicates the color of the sparkles emitted when ignited.
As I said, the all of that, which is contained within a sparkler, are also the particulates being sprayed in the skies, and so obviously they are flammable, which then is a massive contributory factor to the forest fires when these flammable materials seep down in the chemtrails and enter the soil, and then with a few laser beam blasts from their various satellites and other space age technologies, can they set whatever forests they like ablaze, and there you have it.
I've seen that magnesium metal burn, and it's super intense. It's very bright. So those particles that are in the sparkler are just little tiny amounts, but magnesium I don't know where they're getting all this stuff to dust everything with it. Sounds like that's a place to see what's going on where they're making it.
Tim, just curious about gases when you're mining and drilling for gold. Mining for gold, do you get gas coming up sometimes? Any kind of gas challenges?
Not in this area, but yeah, they do. They have real dangerous gases that miners run into. Virginia City had places where the gases form when they'd ram into areas where the gases are, and that's why they had their parakeets down there in the shaft with them, because the parakeet would die or at least go unconscious. And if anybody's paying attention to make sure, see if the parakeet's having problems, then it's time to get out, because they've hit the poison gas area, a poison gas area. You never know how big inside the earth.
So the fracking is for natural gas? Is that the idea, Kevin?
Yeah, that was the idea. It was supposed to revolutionize the energy industry of the world. Apparently, all this shale gas was found to be under the ground, and so the idea was they had to build all these contraptions to sort of smash through the rock and access it. But as we have said on a number of occasions on these shows, I mean, they are concealing and withholding all this free energy and all these technologies that individuals like Tesla developed, which they have are keeping under wraps and keeping from the general populace. So all these measures of trying to find other sources of fuel are completely unnecessary. And of course, as a lot of researchers have pointed out, that isn't the reason why they're doing it. They're doing it because of the massive amounts of water that is required for this fracking process, which then helps to exhaust at least the surface water that's available, not taking into consideration the primary water, but it does exhaust the surface water, which then means they can have the controllers can have a greater monopoly on it, and then make people more dependent upon them when the supply of water is limited, and according to what the controllers decide to give people, and also the water is completely contaminated by all the chemicals that they use in the fracking process. So not only are they exhausting vast water supplies, water sources, but they're also contaminating the water that's left. And of course, the contaminations also seep into the soil, and so that is the real reason for the fracking. It's not for the benefit of the slaves. It's simply for more control purposes and more more health implications, which of course is all tied in with their depopulation agendas.
And are earthquakes and fracking related?
Yep, that's another thing they're doing as well, and they know that as well. According to researchers, they know exactly where to dig to drill into, which will cause the most likely scenarios where it will cause issues with which will cause potential earthquakes and earth tremors, which again adds to destruction and such. And as far as I know, there haven't been. Well, I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, whether any earthquakes of recent times can be attributed to fracking, who can say? But it certainly hasn't helped. And obviously, as they go in there with their machines and they hit very vulnerable points, they're certainly going to make them weaker, and so more likely that earthquakes will be the result. And like Max Egan was saying in his video, I mean, they have literally hundreds and thousands of these fracking wells throughout Australia, and with Australia being a very dry country anyway, it adds to the general drought, and fracking is quite extensive in the UK as well. And as I don't think we've had much by way of earthquakes here, but certainly throughout the cities, people over the last 10 years, couple of decades, people have reported far more than ever before that we are receiving sort of mini tremors, more so than ever before, whereas on the UK we never would be the recipient of such. So,
and where do they get the massive amount of water in the fracking? Is it from the aquifers, or they truck it in, or how does that work?
They just make use of the of whatever water is available. I think they probably are in cahoots with the massive water industries, and the problem is as well with fracking is that they can't use grey water or recyclable water. Apparently, they have to use fresh water as well. So, according to them, although I don't see why that would necessarily be the case, but yeah, but with these huge fracking operations, they just sort of access all the water that's there and then just ship it to the site, millions and millions upon millions of gallons of the stuff, and then away they go. Yeah, so.
Wow. Yeah, it's just total devastation, control, pollution of the planet. It's just ongoing. We're here to just warn people. I mean, just knowing about it, at least that, people were to investigate a little bit further than what they see in the media. It's just right there. Everything's right there. It's like total annihilation here. But we have the cure, awareness. Become more aware, and you can do something about it, for yourself and others. Okay, what you can do for yourself is sing the new UUU like this, and help you become more aware. NUUU. Tim?
New